Very well behaved. Silence fell over the room. Hello everybody and welcome to today's event. Really brilliant to have you all with us. Thank you everybody for joining us. Today's event about exploring the future of gaming and esports technology. And thank you to our sponsors 𝗏𝗏𝗏 for enabling us to hold it at such, I hope you'll agree, a wonderful venue. Many memories of my childhood have flooded back as soon as I walked through. And for providing us a wonderful lunch too. I'm 𝗨𝗏𝗶𝗀𝗏, I'm the Director for Technology and Innovation at techUK. It's my absolute pleasure to be here today and kicking off today. I am also, though I don't sound it, a very proud Yorkshire woman, Yorkshire lass, from up the road in Mansfield, and I knew I was back in Yorkshire when I saw Secret Crisps. So thank you very much. That's made my day. So in case you're not familiar with techUK, we are the trade association for the UK technology sector as a whole. We represent over 1,000 member organisations, some of whom are here today. We focus on how do we work with our members and the wider community to realise the benefits of technology, and how do we get technology right, not just for our economy, not just for our society, but for people and the planet as well. And we do that through convening events, such as today. Through our policy work, we're going to hear a little bit from 𝗍𝗲𝗏 on our growth plan at the moment, our thought leadership and customers. So if you're interested in the hard numbers, you're interested in hearing more about techUK, go and check out my website. So I'm delighted to be here to help launch the UK's first report, techUK's first report exploring the future of gaming and esports technologies. I'm particularly excited to be doing it here in Sheffield. Although Sheffield has changed, I don't recognise a lot of it. That's so here's the agenda for today on what we're going to be looking at. Following my introduction, our lead of our emerging technologies work, 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, is going to share an overview of the key findings of our first esports report that went live earlier today. Then we'll briefly hear from 𝗍𝗏𝗏 from our policy team about our growth plan, and then we'll be welcoming our fantastic speakers who are patiently waiting behind me for the main panel, which Rory will be chairing. And then we will have about an hour, we'll have some time for Q&A, so depending on how many questions we have, we might have a little less, to explore the exhibitions and obviously the game as well, and we'll close the event at 3 o'clock. So, let's kick off today at this amazing venue. Now, the look around this amazing space, it couldn't be more fitting for this conversation and for the report launched today. The National Video Game Museum is the UK's only museum dedicated solely to video games, celebrating and exploring their history and the culture of the last 50 years. Within these walls are 100 playable exhibitions and 5,000 objects of video game heritage, many of which I know and some of which I owned back in the day. I wonder if I still have it. Each of which hints at the technology trends that have emerged over the past decades to make gaming increasingly personalised, intelligent, interactive, immersive, accessible, decentralised, and part of our society. So walking around the museum, you get a real sense of how also art, science, and technology have been combined by designers, engineers, scientists to produce gaming experiences that we have all enjoyed and millions enjoy today. So it comes at no surprise that this is the technology aspect that really interests me the most. And what an incredible legacy the UK boasts in the tech that, not only in the gaming and esports technologies, but the technologies that underpin gaming and esports of the past, the present, and also looking to the future. From the release of the 𝗏𝗏𝗏 Spectrum, which I really wanted to forget, home computers in 1982 to the creation of global hits such as 𝗏𝗏𝗏 Croft, 𝗏𝗏𝗏 Raider, Grand Theft Auto, the UK has been at the heart of many of the technological-led revolutions and innovations that have shaped how the world games. Notable examples include, of course, personal computing, advanced graphics, immersive technologies, and now today, AI algorithms. And interestingly, not one of these I would call the gaming technology. Today, video gaming technology spillovers. This is where unrelated sectors have adopted and applied innovations from gaming developers can be found everywhere you look. This includes the use of gaming engines to enhance the production of visual effects for television and film, the deployment of virtual reality technologies that we're seeing increasingly to help educate students, and train employees across both the public and the private sector. As of 2021, the impact of the gaming spillovers across other sectors of the economy included around 9,900 jobs, and £1.3 billion in economic output. And let's not forget that the video game industry here in the UK supports 76,000 jobs across the whole supply chain and contributes over £6 billion to the economy. And with the number of gamers expected to globally hit 3.8 billion by 2026, now is the time for the UK to build on its strong legacy, history, heritage, to lead on the development, application, and the commercialisation of gaming and esports technologies for the future. And crucially, time to convert this lead into more jobs. Of course, the key focus for us at the moment, high levels of productivity and sustained economic growth. And this is where techUK's long-running campaign and today's report launch really comes in. In January, we launched our first sprint campaign, 𝗲𝗲 launched our first sprint campaign, exploring the future of gaming and esports technologies. Through workshops, roundtables, panel discussions, networking sessions, tech demos, we've looked to understand what role the technology has in shaping the future of these sectors. Along the way, we've showcased how our members, organisations are creating world-leading innovations, convened a huge number of stakeholders from the gaming studios to universities, and we've turned members' views and feedbacks we've heard along the way into the recommendations for government that you will see in the report. And now we are all here together. Today's event will report the culmination of this campaign. So as Rory will explain a bit more, the report identifies 8 future tech trends set to shape the gaming and esports sectors, as well as highlighting examples of best practice from members and stakeholders, and specific policy interventions we believe will help drive innovation and growth. It also spans a range of future technologies, looking at everything from AI to AR, metaverse, and Web 3 and beyond. And I think today's panel discussion will touch on many of these things and technologies, give you a flavour of the report's trends, case studies, and recommendations. And what a panel to take us on that journey through as well. Thank you all for being with us today, including everybody from a pro esports athlete who won gold for Britain at the Commonwealth Games to senior executives of world-leading gaming publishers. 4 of our speakers have also contributed case studies that are included in the report, and I encourage you to have a read of the report, just not right now, if that's okay. Do it on the way. So, with closing in, before I hand it over to Rory, I'd just like to stress that there are no cheat codes for UK leadership in gaming and esports technologies in the future. We know that success will take time, talent, investment, ambition, creativity, something I think we all have in buckets, and harnessing the immense potential of the UK's world-leading technology sector. And as we all know, the time to act feels like it really is now. So I look forward to engaging with you all, not just today, but in the coming years and the months as we go on this journey together, and we make that promise and that vision a reality. Thank you again to our sponsors, Tencent, and to everybody here for joining us in Sheffield. I hope you enjoyed today's discussion, the report, the case studies in the report, and of course this wonderful museum. So with that, I'm going to hand over to Rory Daniels. He's going to take us through the report and talk more about the report that we've launched today. So Rory, over to you. Thank you very much.
And thanks, Sue, for giving that great opening speech. My name is Rory Daniels. I'm techUK's Senior Program Manager for Emerging Technologies, and as Sue mentioned, I launched techUK's Gaming and Esports activity in January, and we've had a really interesting campaign in the months since, and all of the workshops, roundtables, panel discussions, tech demos, and something else, networking sessions, have fed into the report that I'll put on the screen in a second and walk you through. And as Sue mentioned, the report contains 8 future tech trends that are set to shape the future of the gaming and esports sectors, as informed by over 1,000 technology companies, consultancies, law firms, universities, clusters, you name it, who are in techUK membership and have fed into the report. We also have a number of policy recommendations, so kind of practical steps for government to implement on everything from the upcoming industrial strategy to strategy for AR technologies. And we have 10 fantastic case studies from most of our panel here today, but also many other interesting 𝗧𝗃 members and stakeholders. So I'll just quickly walk you through the key findings from the report, and then we'll soon after talk about our growth plan very quickly, and then move on to the panel discussion. C's on the tech, don't worry. So this is the report. You can see on the left, and on the right is a QR code. So if you would like to view the report, please do scan the QR code. But this is how it looks on the front, and the intention being some sort of virtual gaming world that you could float around in. Just let everyone scan that through. Brilliant. So these are the 8 future tech trends that me and Sue mentioned that are included in the report, and as you can see, there's a really wide range. Of topics covered. So everything, the first 2 are on artificial intelligence and increasing use of generative AI to create in-game assets, but also worlds. The crucial point being how human creators and developers leverage these technologies to develop games. Then the next 2 are on immersive technologies. So we're seeing, we give specific examples of how AR, VR, so it's augmented and virtual reality, haptics and sensors, holograms, all these technologies that put you more in the moment as a game are being increasingly developed and applied across gaming experiences. And linked to that is the continued growth of metaverse gaming. We see some huge titles like Fortnite that are kind of setting this, paving the way for the growth of this growing online multiplayer, persistent 24-hour gaming experience that wraps up a lot of other experiences, be that concerts or increasingly retail, all under one umbrella. We then have a trend on casual gaming, which is about the rise or continued rise of mobile gaming and the increasing sophistication of a lot of the technologies that underpin gaming on the go, or gaming with as few barriers to entry as possible. So no expensive consoles. You're not tethered to a certain location that you play. And the likes of semiconductors, cloud compute, 5 and 6G, advanced Wi-Fi standards are all kind of transforming these games before our eyes, and it's really interesting to see. Then we have ownership and the Web3 economy. This has been quite a big focus of 𝗧𝗃, particularly initially through our financial services program, but increasingly we see Web3 technologies, the likes of blockchain, digital assets, NFTs, bleed into gaming and wider entertainment sectors. And so a number of interesting case studies and member contributions in that chapter. Then we have enhanced broadcast and viewing technologies. Again, esports is a kind of obvious example where streaming of games is becoming increasingly ubiquitous. We include some stats on the number of people across the UK who are streaming esports content, and we're seeing a lot of the larger tournaments rival comparable in physical tournaments in the sporting world in terms of attending numbers, viewership figures, that sort of thing. So we talk about the continued rise of that trend and the technology set to underpin it. And then finally, social gaming and esports. And this is essentially a reflection of the fact that gaming environments are increasingly becoming the place in which people go to socialize online. And we look at some of the features that underpin the rise of that trend and some of the technologies that are driving it as well. with some fantastic case studies from Imogen and India as well. So those are the 8 trends. I encourage you to check those out in the report. And just a shout out to our fantastic contributors, mostly the techUK members, but we also have some stakeholders as well, who have provided various types of expertise towards this report. Be that on strategy, regulation, policy, skills and talent, specific technologies, be that AI game engines or immersive technologies, and much more. Fantastic. And I won't go in any sort of detail over these, or else why would you read the report, right? But to give you a flavour of the recommendations in the report, as I mentioned, they cover quite a wide range of things. The first 2 being about government's upcoming industrial strategy and including a real focus on gaming as a priority sector within that, which is a huge opportunity to give the gaming sector much needed exposure and crucially to ask for the resource that will come with the investment in those sectors. The second is about creating a future gaming and esports strategy. This is something that's under development as we speak in Scotland, but we argue that there should be a UK-wide approach to supporting the sector, and we set out in that recommendation that skills and talent, finance, all of these kind of big, meaty issues, not all of which are explicitly explored in depth in this report, as we're more about the technologies that sit under the sectors. These are all key challenges to be tackled. I know you is doing a lot of fantastic work in this area, and we look forward to working with you on some of that. Third is about the use of AI in future AI strategies, the use of AI in gaming being an explicit focus of the future AI strategy. Just as gaming as a sector needs a bit of a cheerleader within the UK, I would argue that as AI steals a lot of the limelight, we should be looking at the applications of AI in gaming and the technologies that come out of gaming that could benefit the AI sector as we ride the wave of current levels of interest in AI. Gaming is a crucial part of the puzzle. As Sue mentioned earlier, the spillovers from the gaming sector will very much and do very much affect the AI sector in a number of ways. And then 3 more. One of them on augmented reality technologies, one of them on the digital infrastructure that sits under the gaming sector, and then one of them on regulation and online safety, which, as we're it kind of really shines through in the report, but the feedback, the extensive feedback we've got is that regulation needs to be in place if a lot of these technologies are to take off, and gaming is to become as large and influential a sector as it's forecast to be in the years to come. Fantastic. My final slide. So these are my key takeaways. If you were to not read the report, if you didn't scan the QR code, shame on you. But here are my key takeaways in case. So as Sue mentioned, the headline trend is that gaming is increasingly becoming these things that we see here: personalised, intelligent, interactive, immersive, accessible, decentralised, and social. And they always have been to some extent. I mean, that's fair to say. And you just look around this room and you could argue that many of these technologies do immerse you in the gaming experience in a way that before digital tech we couldn't be. But we're seeing that on a whole new level and in some really interesting ways that I try to pull out in this report. We mentioned the potential reward is immense. 3.8 billion gamers across the world by next year, very soon, 2026. Worth 6 billion to the UK economy. So many jobs, so many spillover effects. We will continue to champion the sector at techUK and the technologies that underpin it. And I think we need as many people in this room and beyond to do the same if we're to truly realise the benefits from the gaming sector and link to that esports too. I mentioned the importance of recognition, as I just said, strategy, digital infrastructure and regulation Not all of them are sexy topics. I've tried to make them as sexy as possible in this report. It's a challenge, but so important to getting this right. And then finally, and I think this is probably my key point, is that technology is an enabler, and human skills, talent, and creativity will be now more important than ever. You know, it's not true that these things will go away. In fact, we need to learn how to leverage these technologies in the right way to realize the benefits. Human beings will be essential to this process, just as they always have used technology as a tool. Fantastic. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to my colleague Nia, who's going to give a really brief, interesting overview of 𝗧𝗪𝗧's latest big publication for 𝗧𝗪𝗧.
So hi everyone, great to be here today. So as mentioned, I'm Nia, so I'm a policy manager for digital economy at techUK. So I sit in a slightly different team to sit with Rory in our policy team. And I'll talk very briefly through our kind of growth plan and I guess policy work most recently and how we've kind of influenced the Chancellor's recent announcements around the autumn budget, mentioned house speech, etc. Obviously with a focus today looking at the vital role of the gaming sector and creative industries as we look ahead to the spending review and to the industrial strategy or invest. So I guess as already mentioned, we at techUK kind of champion the role of the wider tech sector in driving forward economic growth. And in doing so, kind of ahead of the Chancellor's budget on the 30th of October, brought together our growth plan. So this set out three key buckets for the government to seize the role of the tech sector in driving forward economic growth. So the first being building the right foundations. Obviously, as already mentioned, we need the right digital infrastructure in place. So we call for policies like rolling forward or committing to the rollout of Project Gigabit to enable kind of gigabit-capable broadband across all of the UK. It's great to see this was committed to in the Chancellor's budget. Other areas like the need of digital adoption and SMEs to embark on the digitisation journey. So we called, for instance, for an SME digital adoption strategy and the continuation of the government's SME digital adoption task force. Again, great to see this committed to by the Chancellor in the autumn budget. Other areas like looking at the tax system, more stability through the R&D tax credit scheme, again committed to through the corporate tax roadmap, also announced on the 5th of October. But I won't get, I can feel myself going kind of into too much detail here, but you can see also we called for kind of empowering Britain's everyday economy, so ensuring that all regions of the UK can develop tech clusters and leverage more tech. And on that, obviously we know that there are gaming and creative industries clusters, and especially in Salford and Manchester, so that's something we put out in our report too. And as Rory mentioned, the third topic it really was around shooting for the stars, seizing where the UK already has a competitive advantage. As we recognise that, for instance, the UK launched a blueprint net zero strategy in 2019, so net zero quantum semiconductors that the UK can really seize. And one of those that we recognise and speak here today really was gaming, and we had a specific recommendation on AR technologies. I guess looking ahead now, so we obviously have phase 2 of the spending review next spring, late spring from the Chancellor, and the industrial strategy, so Invest 2035. And as Rory mentioned, we are responding to that, and a key ask for us within that, particularly on the question around what are the high-growth subsectors, alongside the identified other high-growth sectors. We particularly call out gaming, as mentioned, it's kind of contribution to the economy, being over 6 billion in GBA, and also, as mentioned by Rory, the spillover effects that it has in skills in developing tech clusters. And yeah, great to be here today to see it all in practice. But should you want to get in touch on specific policy work, then please do reach out. I would also note that kind of a big focus of ours at techUK is also around scale-ups, enabling tech firms to scale and stay in the UK, and know that there's a wealth of scaling firms within the gaming and esports industry. So looking at kind of the tax incentives and other policies to enable them to do that is definitely a priority. So the 𝗨𝗲𝗶𝗲, CTC, etc. So yeah, please do reach out if you want to hear or discuss more. And again, congrats to Rory and the team on this report. We're really excited to continue calling for the growth and support of the gaming sector within the creative industries and budget. So thanks all. Sorry, I think that probably was slightly over 5 minutes.
Seamlessly move over here. Pretend I'm not doing this right now. Brilliant. Well, without further ado, and thanks, for telling us about the growth plan. We're on to the moment you've all been waiting for, which is the panel discussion. And I think what an interesting and kind of fun speaker lineup we have. And it's not every day that you have such cool panelists. But I thought we're launching a report, we're in a cool place, so our speakers are disagreeing. You are cool, I promise. So we're going to have a chat now about the future of gaming and esports technologies, just what they are. We'll talk a little bit about specific types of AI or immersive or mobile gaming. We'll touch upon things like skills and the talent pipeline and those sorts of things, broad strategic points. But mainly it's more of an informal discussion. So our panelists will be free to answer as they wish. So what I'm going to do is quickly just go down the row and just ask you to introduce yourselves one by one. So I'll start with Keith.
Thank you. Hello folks, my name is 𝗵𝗵𝗀𝗀. I'm the Senior Director of Global Publishing of Tencent. I work out of our London office here in the UK, and I look after a number of our wholly owned studio projects, so taking the creative endeavours of our studio teams and bringing them to market through the development process and then the go-to-market process. I've been lucky enough to work in the UK gaming industry for over 20 years now. It's been a fantastic journey, and it's a pleasure to be here today. Thank you.
Hi everyone. I have to turn slightly, so I'm going to look sideways for most of it, the microphone. My name is 𝗵𝗵𝗀𝗶𝗶. I work in PwC's deal strategy team, mostly in the consumer and media sectors, of which video games and esports are obviously a perfect crossover. So I think I will try and bring today a bit of a cross-sector, cross-industry perspective, and I'm very much looking forward to sharing and hearing everyone's thoughts.
Right, so I'm India Brown, who are us online. I'm the couple of co-models for Team England from 2022. I'm a professional esports athlete. I currently compete for an organization called Esports Competition, who are based over in Germany. And yeah, I wanted to be here. I'm here to kind of give my 2 cents on the other side. Everyone is kind of like corporate, I'm more of the player experience. So yeah, I'm just happy to be here and excited to get involved.
Hey everybody, I'm Paul. I'm the Chief Analytics Officer at 𝗵𝗵𝗀𝗶𝗶, with a corporate bid. So I've been in 𝗵𝗵𝗀𝗶𝗶 for 12 years now. I've worked in a number of different areas of the business, not just the data side. So I've got experience on the finance side, advertising, marketing. My current role obviously is mainly focused on analytics and data science, as well as to support all of that, including our analytics infrastructure. For those of you who don't know, so 𝗵𝗵𝗀𝗶𝗶 is a developer and publisher, mainly of mobile games, but we do also publish on PC and console as well. We've got around 20 studios globally, 12 In the UK, we've got 6 different studios, around 300 employees, so each really about key development hubs, about 30% of our global workforce. Yeah, I think that's it. I'm terrible at it.
Hi everyone, my name is Tom Dorr. I'm the Vice President of the 𝗚়হি h_𝗶𝗶𝗹. We're the UK's national body for esports, established in 2016 with authority from the UK government. We're not-for-profit. At the top end, we facilitate Great Britain teams to go to, for example, the upcoming Olympic Esports Games, the Commonwealth Esports Championship, which we're incredibly proud of what 𝗓𝗏 did for us there. And at the grassroots level, we then facilitate competitions in schools and colleges. For example, we have over 700 teams from schools and colleges competing each week, so about 3,000 young people competing online each week. And we've written a variety of qualifications as well, so including the level 2 and level 3 BTECs in esports, which we've had 13,500 young people study in the last 5 years. A quick shout out, if I may, to Sheffield itself, because it may be a little bit by coincidence that we're doing it here, but Sheffield as a centre for esports is significant. We've got Adam sitting at the back there, so end from end point, who are one of the only truly UK-based professional teams, and they're based here in Sheffield. And then, well, I'm too controversial, there are 2 football clubs in Sheffield, both of whom are heavily involved with esports as well, both at a professional sense but also at community level as well. So it's actually a really good choice to be here to experience this in Sheffield.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks all. Yeah, I'm going to take all the credit for that. So intentional, completely intentional. Also, worth pointing out, me and India are wearing the same trainers, so like, I'm not corporate, India, just as cool as you. Brilliant. So I thought we'd start broad and ask some of our panelists just what they think the kind of key emerging technologies are that will completely transform the gaming and esports experience in the years to come. So maybe I'll start with Imogen. You can give us your broad take on the question.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, uncontroversially, AI is the main topic of conversation, and I think it's something we'll dive into in a little bit more detail. But that is probably at the core and heart at the moment of what's going to be transforming gaming and esports. I think, metaverse and associated technologies have maybe slightly moved out of the focal point of the picture in the past couple of years as AI has really sprung out. But actually, Web3, the metaverse, digital twins, there's a lot of tech and change there that will, I think, continue to be relevant and interesting, but maybe just isn't being talked about quite as much. But AI, far and away, the most exciting piece that everyone is talking about that I think we can engage with at every stage.
Sure, okay. It didn't take long for AI to come up. I'll try and mention other technologies. Keith, do you agree with Imogen's evaluation?
Well, AI is here for sure. We're seeing it in all of the studios that we work with. Exploration into what AI can do to enhance and add value to the whole production chain. We also look at things like augmented reality and what that does for us from a publishing point of view in terms of creating content for users. That goes beyond the norm. For instance, at Gamescom this year, 𝗚𝗏𝗶𝗶, which is our public-facing publishing brand, did a showcase that was an augmented reality stage, which takes audio take from the games, immerses the hosts on the stage in their tech, and allows us to broadcast it out. So yeah, future tech is here. It's great, and we're enjoying using it.
That's good to hear. Very fitting, as Tom said, we're in Sheffield, we're in the UK. The UK's got a proud legacy, as you mentioned, in the development and application of these technologies. Tom, I wonder if I could come to you and just ask, where does the UK sit within this whole picture? Where are we strongest?
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously in the video game space, we have a history of a long storied history of publishers and of indie developers, and very strong from that point of view. Esports is still only a small part of that wider video game industry. You're probably correct, but it's about $250, $260 billion industry globally a year, and esports is about $2 billion of that. Okay, so esports itself is still a very small part of it. Where we sit in terms of esports, we are known globally for the work we're doing around education, around standards, working with community, grassroots, with young people. There are Southeast Asia is the breadbasket for esports, China and South Korea, or South Korea in particular. The Saudis are now coming up on the rails, or not coming up on the rails, they're there in terms of the investment they're much the UK has looked upon, as I said, education standards, what we can do to develop grassroots, because that's what we've got to do, is build that ecosystem from the bottom to make it sustainable. I think it's worth saying that, reminding people, if you didn't know, nobody owns football, nobody owns rugby, somebody owns each video game title. And so it's very different from that traditional, although we can mirror ourselves on the traditional sports, and we'll come back to that, I'm sure. But it is about building that sustainable base. And so that's where we're working very hard to use examples from traditional sports and using the best practice, but also mistakes that they made in traditional sport to actually build that ecosystem from the bottom up, essentially. So that's where we can really, where people are looking to the UK, essentially, across those areas I just mentioned. People are looking at us and looking at what we're doing to really help support that globally.
Sure, that makes sense. And I'm sure the audience here is very tech savvy. I don't want to make a mistake of assuming. Are you able to just define esports and distinguish it from?
Yeah, absolutely. So esports is organised competitive video gaming. It's always human versus human. So a lot of the tech that we'll talk about now, specific to video games, where I'm coming from really is how does that impact on the competition? How does that impact on the competitive element where friends playing with and against other friends, or teams from schools or colleges playing against other teams from schools or colleges? How is the technology going to impact on that? So some of the things you mentioned here in terms of the audience experience, the fan experience, that very much applies to esports. Some of the stuff that Keith and Paul will talk about in terms of the real in-depth tech side of things, that and about how the video games themselves are developed. That for me is a little bit outside of where esports is going, which is all about the player experience and the fan engagement through the competition.
Good, that makes sense. India, I want to just ask you, building on what Tom said about the talent pipeline in this country, and you've got a lot of students. Can you put your hand up if you're a student in the audience? Amazing. Okay, so here's the pipeline, essentially. So India, in your experience, would you say that, do you see a strong talent pipeline in the UK? Lots of people studying and engaging with esports early?
I mean, at the minute, it is developing. Probably like 5-10 years ago, it was not there. I still think there's still a long way to go in terms of like developing talent. I was pretty much suggesting putting the idea of, football have academies. I think we need to kind of see a pipeline of universities or colleges also creating sort of those academies. Same thing with organizations, pro esports teams. A lot of them have main rosters and different titles. We've seen a couple of academies here and there in guilds as well. Guild Esports that are based in the UK. They had a good academy for a couple of titles, a couple of games here and there. But I think overall, the talent pipeline definitely has some work to go. Being a student myself, I studied at the College of Esports. All types of British esports, thanks Tom. I think that's already like an incredible start to sort of build the talent pipeline, build sort of the encouragement to get students to get involved in esports, because there's a lot of transferable skills from esports and gaming in general. So I think that's just the route it needs to go. I would say through education and then through the top dogs, through the top organizations, also supporting that entire route and just building a whole ecosystem together.
Fantastic, that makes sense. So I'd like to bring Paul in here and move to onto kind of one of the first meaty topics of this discussion, which is mobile gaming. And so from Vince's perspective, obviously it opens up the kind of medium of gaming for whole new audience, essentially. How are you seeing that happen, and how does it affect what Minifit is doing?
Yeah, so I think mobile's grown massively over the last 15 years. What we're seeing is that I saw a figure of something like 3 players. I think on mobile we're already in several billion players already that we can reach. Minikip's purpose, if you have a look on our website, it'll say we want to unleash the gamer in everyone. And I think mobile is the best place to do that. You really can reach everyone. People who would never call themselves a gamer. I can see like my kids are being introduced to games through mobile device. You see the older generation who never played games before in their entire life, experiencing games for the first time on adoption around the world. I think in the UK we're already at 80%. I mean, trying to find somebody who doesn't have a smartphone. Right? And also alongside of that, we've got connectivity. So we've got our 4 and 5G, which is making it easier and easier now to get online to access great content. So what we're doing, the way we look at it is, okay, you've got this really broad audience, young and old, male, female, and everybody's playing mobile games. So, what do we do? How do we approach that? So, you can look at really trying to target a really broad audience, or trying to find something really specific. And if you do target something really specific, you can still get a decent audience size, hundreds of thousands of players, maybe even millions. And then from there, we've got other challenges on mobile, which is people. You never know where someone's going to be. Someone could be sat at home on their sofa. They could be on the bus. They could be in the playground, at work. So when they start the game, you've got no idea what the session is going to be, right? They could play a game for 2 minutes. They could play for 2 hours, right? So you have to, when you think about game design, you need to think about, okay, am I going to embrace that? Am I going to kind of try and cater for that full spectrum, or am I going to go in one particular direction? You also need to cater for, the connection side of things, which, you can't guarantee that the connection is going to be stable. You can't guarantee the speed of that connection. So a lot of mini-clips games are multiplayer. So over the years, we've had to come up with, really good, sophisticated solutions to allow multiplayer to happen on the go. And all of our games, powered by data, and you need to figure out what happens if those data packets are not reaching the servers and not getting back to the game. So, there's lots going on, lots of challenges to it.
Sure, that sounds like it. Out of interest, how many people here would call themselves a mobile gamer? Just raise your hand. Who games on their mobile? Okay, not that many. Yeah, I would. Okay, interesting. Well, it's expected to grow, so everyone who didn't raise their hand probably will in 5 to 10 years, I'm sure of it. Brilliant. And kind of on the panel, really, but on mobile gaming, are there any shifts that you're seeing happening, maybe greater usage of AI, or the application in esports, or kind of fan engagement in India? Is there anything that's standing out to you as a key trend?
I'll jump in. One of the things that I see, I've been recruiting gamers into the gaming communities for decades, and mobile gaming was always casual. And one of the trends that I think we're seeing now is how mobile gamers are becoming a community of hardcore gamers unto themselves. And we're seeing the rise of even professional mobile gaming. And for instance, in December at the Excel Centre, we'll see the 𝗪𝗪 Mobile World Champs happening on the 6th, 7th, and 8th. Playing a 10-cent event for sure. But, mobile gamers will be there from around the world to show their skills and prove that they've got what it takes. And for me, this is quite a transformative evolution to show that not only is the technology and the gaming catching up, but the device is becoming engaging, multiplayer, and it's moving into the space that we've seen previously reserved for like hardcore PC and console players. And I think this is even more true when you step out of, for instance, the UK market, go more east, and you see mobile gaming becoming even more prolific in that kind of sphere. So, I don't see this evolution of players and gamers and these communities who call themselves gamers growing as different technology devices kind of rise up.
It's one of the areas that we're actually behind in the UK is mobile gaming. As you said, you go to Southeast Asia, even the global south, where actually access to PCs, access to stable broadband is a barrier to gaming. And so mobile gaming allows people to engage, to meet, to play with their friends, and then to compete. And the 𝗪𝗪 in a couple of weeks' time is going to be evidence of that. The player base for 𝗪𝗪 Mobile in the UK is very small in comparison to the Middle East and Southeast Asia. So we won't have any talent anywhere near this stage at the global finals, simply because there isn't that player base yet in the UK. But it's something that will only grow because we will have greater smartphone usage here in the UK because of
sponsoring a student tour too.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
16 student teams planning around the UK. Top team goes to play on stage in the exhibition thing over there. So
Absolutely, they're really looking forward to it. It's certainly the opportunity for our students, for our teams to be playing, for the student teams to be playing live on stages is phenomenal, and that is really where, again, how we can grow the industry. If you compare it to traditional sport, if you compare it to football, where football clubs are deliberately having their grassroots engagement with different groups and bringing them through the clubs, there hasn't been enough yet of that in esports, and really engaging that community. So the work that Tencent are doing there, that we're supporting with, is going to be a fantastic model that I think we can use.
I think in this space there's also an interesting dynamic where mobile gaming is actually so advanced. When you think about the way other consumer businesses and industries are using mobile, and everyone has an app now, but they all want to tap into the way mobile games manage to engage people. They're all trying to use features from mobile games, and they're applying that, and I think it's a really interesting area in which actually gaming expertise is being sought out and sought after on what can we take, what dynamics can we incorporate that keep you playing a little bit longer or keep you coming back, and how can they apply that into slightly different consumer spaces. So it's one area where I think we might be a little bit behind competitively, but we are ahead of the wider consumer market.
That's really interesting to hear. And good news for anyone who engages with techUK, because we do an awful lot on consumer devices and on gaming. There could be an intersection there worth exploring. Fantastic. So I'm going to move us on to the elephant in the room, AI. So, Imogen, I wonder if I can come back to you on that. So do you have a take on, broadly speaking, how AI will affect the development of video games in the UK?
I think we could be here for a few days trying to get into that in detail. I'll touch on a couple of themes that I see coming out quite strongly. I think there's a big call for trying to rationalise, trying to make more efficient certain processes in game development, and particularly around production services, perhaps things that take up quite a lot of manpower but aren't the core creative elements of game design. So I'm thinking about some localization or globalization, which is now very much moving towards AI, to an extent parts of quality assurance and some parts of game art and game design that are more repetitive background scenes and building that out. And I think in mobile in particular, I'd be interested to hear Paul's view. I think there's a lot where AI is coming in and doing background art pieces. So I think there's something there. Where can we take process-heavy tasks and use AI to free people up? I think also there is something that doesn't often get talked about because it's a bit less sexy in AI, but there's a lot of business processes that can be sped up with AI technology, and actually, particularly for smaller studios where there's a huge amount of paperwork and background work and backroom work that isn't the fun part, that isn't why people get into the industry, but is actually an important part of making the business work. I think AI has a place and a role to step in and let more people focus on the creative side that they probably have more skills in, and will hopefully enable more people to start successful games businesses. So I think there's a bit of task-driven opportunity to optimize or replace, and actually there's a bit of slightly less exciting, but very practical, how can you speed up your financials and your HR systems so that you have a functional company earlier on?
Sure, that makes sense. Because these are businesses at the end of the day, albeit producing again. So, yeah, that makes sense.
I can answer that a little bit about what's going on communicatively with the mobile space. I can't think of an area of the business that AI isn't touching. So from kind of the ideation process, that's not AI coming up with ideas. It's about someone in the organisation having an idea, and then they've got tools to bring that idea to life and to try and implement that in the organisation. The development side, obviously, developers are using AI as kind of a co-pilot and help with the code and maybe get into a rough solution much quicker than they might do otherwise. Where it's using playing games, all the way through to kind of what Imogen was saying, kind of in the background, running the games business. From things like marketing. You never know which marketing creative is going to engage an audience. To be honest with you, it's pretty much a volume game. So all you need is lots of creative. You need lots of copy. You want to be testing all of that, and that's where your ad can really come in. And then you've got your marketeers that are thinking a little bit more strategically, see what's going on in the market, right? Okay, what do I need to be testing? So it really helps from that perspective. I think at the end, what you get is a much more efficient business. You're able to do a lot more with the same than what you've got, which is great, right? That's a healthier business, much more profitable, and that's ultimately what we do.
Sure, that makes a lot of sense. I'm going to move to one of our trends in the report on viewing and broadcast technologies, and more specifically towards the esports side of things. So, Tom, I'll come to you and then I'll to India on this. So, if you kind of set the scene for us as to just how technologies are shaping the future of these viewing, streaming experiences, please.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I'm hoping, because the most majority of people here have some form of engagement with video games, everybody will know what Twitch is, or what you can do with Twitch. The same thing with YouTube. They are obviously the behemoths of where people go to watch esports, which also can create some of the issues as well, because the money generated through doesn't get fed back to people like Adam and his team at Endpoint necessarily in the same way that it does with football in terms of what you expect. You know, Sky Sports paying ridiculous sums of money for the Premier League, and that money filters down to the teams. That doesn't happen in esports yet, which is part of the sustainability issue you have. Sidetracked a little bit. It is the whole viewership is critical to the esports industry. It is not just about people playing games. It is about the viewership. It is about fan engagement. It is how people can follow their teams. It's how people follow their players. Because unlike in traditional sport, where people stick with a team, in esports, people will follow a player. So if that player moves from one team to another, even if they're moving from a British team to a German team, if people are fans of 𝗏𝗏𝗏, they follow 𝗏𝗏𝗏, regardless of which team she's playing for. And it is the way in which that individual players, individual teams can then utilise that, and utilise that viewership, and utilise that audience as well. So how can technology enhance that? It is about that engagement piece. And how many players, if you're into football, I'm trying to think of a Sheffield United or Sheffield Wednesday player off the top of my head, I can't. But imagine if you're a fan of one of those players, you're never going to get to really interact with them. You're not going to get to play football with them. You're not necessarily going to be able to exchange direct messages with them. On Twitch, through YouTube, through streaming, fans can directly engage with their heroes or heroines, okay, with the players that they look up to, that they want to be, that they're aspiring to be. And so that adds a completely different level of engagement than you get in traditional. So people feel closer to the heroes, to the players. And technology, and that happens now. So as we move forward with technologies, the ability for things to be real time, even more time, so engagement pieces, things like that are going to be critical.
Sure, absolutely, and lots of that in the report. So India, is that your experience too? I mean, like being one of the players with a community of fans, is it getting easier to engage with them? Is technology helping in this process?
I think stuff definitely like Tom was saying, with YouTube and Twitch, it's definitely sort of, just sort of a starter. Obviously you can interact directly with streamers or players if they stream on Twitch. But I think there's many avenues that you can branch off of in terms of AI and VR especially. More so that the fact that engagement is one of the biggest pieces of esports. And with esports being, unlike football or physical sports that are mainly in person and you can go and see, obviously esports events happen like that as well, but they're not as frequent, I would say. Obviously you have championships, which maybe it depends on the title, it differs, but you might have a championship that is 3 times a year, then you have an ultimate world championship at the end of it. So you're comparing 4 LAN in real events compared to, a weekly football game that happens throughout the entire season. It's very different. So online engagement is definitely biggest thing, and I think just topping off what Tom was saying, AI and VR is definitely the way to go. That's it personally, especially VR. It's also a way to become more inclusive. Obviously, if you have a VR headset or any sort of anything like that with VR, you can have such an immersive and enjoyable experience in the comfort of your home. And I think if we get that on the mainstream, because VR has become a lot more affordable, a lot more accessible over the years, it's still a bit spendy compared to just watching something on your phone, but it's a lot more accessible than it used to be. I think if we can make that mainstream, it would increase engagement. People are going to be they're going to have so much more excitement to watch the event in such an immersive experience compared to just sat on the phone or a laptop or whatever like that. So I think there's many avenues to get more engagement, because at the end of the day, engagement is what powers esports and monetization and partnerships and sponsorships. At the end of the day, if you need funding or partnership or sponsorship, the companies wanting to put money into you want to know, okay, who's going to see my product, who's going to see my brand. So engagement is such a massive thing, and I think there's multiple avenues that can be explored via AI and VR.
Sure, that's really interesting. And VR is one key focus of the immersive sector of the report for obvious reasons. If you want, nobody's asking, if you want my prediction for the tech trends next year, I can give it to you. I'm seeing an awful lot of AR pop up, be that new headsets from the likes of Meta, so Orion in development, Snap as well, OpenAI making very big moves towards AR. So how that will affect gaming, read the report and find out, but really interesting topic. And Paul, conscious, have you used AR, is that right, in gaming experiences?
Not so much AI, we have some games on.
Okay, sure. And
it's not really been a massive focus area for us. I think we focus, I guess, more on where the big audiences are. And I think right now, there has obviously been some really successful AI titles on mobile. I'm sure you're talking about. But it seems like those, one or two games are kind of exception to the rule right now, and I think it's still quite impressive. And I think it's something to look into.
Sure. Keith, wondering, I come to you on streaming, and Tencent contributed a case study in the report on this topic. Just where do you see the future of streaming as games go from a technology perspective?
Well, I like to see the level of immersion that we do in streams. And one of the really great things that we see from the ability to put our games out there is using things like AR to ensure that we have that level of immersion in the stream. So we have that level of engagement with players. We really show the game experience. So how do we create new experiences for players? How do we immerse them in those experiences? And we're finding that technology allows us to do that in a much better way. And we do deliver a more polished experience for players, which is something we love to do. So that's what we're seeing in creative competition.
Sure, okay, that's good to know. Great, so I think we're going to go on to maybe something on quite a big topic in the sector on diversity, inclusion, and social mobility within gaming. And we do a lot of work in techUK on how the application of certain technologies can drive advancements in these areas. Gaming and esports will be no exception. So I'm wondering, India, I know you do an awful lot of work on this topic, and I see it all over your LinkedIn all the time. I recommend following if you can, on LinkedIn. Can you give us your take on just kind of where the UK is when it comes to promoting diversity and these issues, and if there's more to do, and what you're doing?
Honestly, the UK is in a good space at the minute. I'd say obviously there's still steps that can be taken, that should be taken. But compared to other places like, let's say, Saudi, controversial, but hey, the UK is definitely up there in promoting that diversity, like sort of acceptance and being inclusive. Honestly, I think it all starts with awareness. And this comes back to my previous point where I said there needs to be a pipeline. So if you build a pipeline, if you take these, especially kids my age younger that are getting into esports and getting into this ecosystem, if you start almost peer training them, just giving them, like, you know, teaching them, or, like, you know, showing them right from wrong, essentially, from a young age, or even in the academies or through education. I think by the time they get out there into the real world and, you know, they're working with companies or they're online, they have their own social media, you know, it will just prevent a lot of harm, honestly. And I think it always just starts with awareness. It genuinely always starts with awareness. And that mainly is my big thing. Obviously, I go around sharing my personal experience being a person of color and a woman in the industry. That's predominantly cis white men. It has been difficult, but I have overcome it. And at the minute, I just kind of share my story, just trying to empower people that look like me. Because when I was getting into esports, no one looked like me at all. And it kind of makes you think, should I be, you know, in this path? Should I be in this career? Am I going to be successful? So honestly, it starts from awareness. And me personally, I just go around. So I'd just say promoting myself, promoting people that look like me, and just creating a safe space and just empowering people and encouraging people to put themselves out there.
Sure, that's great. Thanks. And Tom, just how much of a focus is this topic, or these topics of British esports?
It's huge, absolutely huge. And I'm very conscious, I'm sitting here as a middle-aged white man talking about this. To shout out to my colleague Alice, who's running our 𝗣𝗲𝗀𝗵𝗶 Summit tomorrow, actually on Sunday. I'm travelling to go to there. In theory, esports is inclusive in ways that most other traditional activities, sports, can't be. In terms of being open and inclusive to anybody of any, wherever you want to put yourself, on whatever spectrum you want to be on. Both in terms of you as a characteristic, but also physically able versus less able people. I'm looking across and seeing the adaptive controller in the case over there, for example. And so it's inclusion in its widest sense. Are we doing enough? No, we're not. There's always going to be stuff that we need to be doing. And it is still a male-dominated space. The toxicity that people face online is shocking. The things need to be done proactively to prevent that happening in the first place. Use technology to actually, if people are trying to post stuff, that people don't actually receive it. So people don't have to read that. They don't even know that they've had it. And then there's consequences back the other way. So certainly with a lot of competitions that we run, we have very strict rule sets around that, and follow up on any incidents that do happen, and you know, preventing people from participating again, albeit knowing that young people, and it is a lot of, remember we are the young demographic, people make mistakes, and so people need to be given the opportunity to learn from their mistakes and play again, because we don't want just people to shut down one account, open up another account on another name, and carry on doing the same thing, which is what happens. We're very proud of the work we do. I was 20 years as a teacher, worked in alternative provision schools, working with young people with significant special needs and behaviour needs, and the use of video games and esports as a motivational tool, as an engagement tool, is huge. Young people with physical needs who physically cannot play traditional sport games, yet they can play alongside their able-bodied friends in video games in ways that they can't do in anything else. We did a fantastic project working with National Star College in Gloucestershire, which is a specialist FE college for 16 to 25-year-olds. Katie Price, her son Harvey, is at that school, for example. We worked with them, with National Star and 8 other colleges like them, working with adaptive controllers, young people with switches on the side of their wheelchairs that were communicating through 𝗣𝗲𝗀𝗃 technologies and things like that, but using switches on the side of their wheelchairs to hit their heads to score a goal with 𝗣𝗲𝗃, for example. You know, hugely positive stories, and young people with life-threatening, life-shortening conditions. Feeding tubes. There's one that Smithy, who's on the video, the 𝗣𝗲𝗀𝗃 came and filmed this, so you can still find it on the 𝗣𝗲𝗃 website, and a feeding tube going through the back of his neck. Saying so, he was a massive Chelsea fan, and so for him to be able to play representing Chelsea when he has never been out of his wheelchair in his life, he died 3 months after that bit was filmed. But his words about being able to feel free and be able to feel like anybody else through the medium of video games and competing like his friends, being able to represent his school like he he saw everybody else do was hugely powerful. So absolutely, there's huge amounts, well, there's lots we are doing, there's still huge amounts we can do. And I would say this sort of community engagement piece, in the same way as we've used sport for years, or music for years, as this vehicle, so many young people, 9 in 10 young people, that's the Ofcom figures, 9 in 10 young people are engaging with video games hours a week. Okay? Yet, government, I'm conscious there are various government departments here, for example, there hasn't been the recognition that video games can be used as this vehicle for development, like we have used sport, music, and drama for many years. So, yeah, hugely proud of the work we're doing, but lots more can be done with the right support.
Absolutely. That's, yeah, completely, I understand those points. I'm going to come on to the final kind of meaty topic of the discussion, which is on social gaming and other trends in the report. So, two of our panelists provided case studies on this topic. So I'm going to start with Imogen and just get your take on what are the key technologies, be that AI or AR or VR, the acronyms, that are shaping how games are becoming increasingly social environments.
I think AR and VR offers some very interesting, exciting opportunities when it comes to more immersive experiences. A couple of people have touched on. You know, the more immersed people feel in the gaming experience, the more connected they are to the game. But I think in my case study I was quite critical actually in some ways of video games. I think there's a lot more they could do with actually the more basic technologies we have. I think this is an area where other industries are better at being multimodal, at reaching people across different platforms and meeting consumers where they are. I think video games can be, and esports as well to an extent, can be quite set in their existing lands. I mean, they're on Twitch, they're on YouTube, and they're meeting their communities there, but they're not raising awareness across broad social media, they're not connecting very well between multi-screens when you're thinking about you playing a mobile game and watching an esport at the same time, and how can we bridge that gap? I think there's actually things we can do with what we have a little bit better, and we can optimize, and then we can probably build out in terms of newer technologies, in terms of creating those more immersive experiences, and thinking about, I think probably AI here comes in mostly in moderation and content again, and how can we make sure these spaces are productive and engaging and not chaotic. So I think I'm probably a little bit more negative here. I think there's lots to go after and there's lots of ways we can connect with people more deeply, but I actually think we can connect with more people more regularly across more touch points. And that's how I see other sectors doing it, and I think gaming can do a little bit more of that.
Sure. Okay. Constructive criticism. Not I'm going to say. Paul, I'm curious to get Miniclip's take on this. Is social gaming, games becoming increasingly not single player but multiplayer? Is this a focus?
Yeah, well, Miniclip's been a multiplayer developer for a long time, and continues to be one of the key areas that we want to develop in. I think one of the areas that we're really focused on is around how we can customize the experience for a user. So we look at kind of three areas around that. It's like, can we refine it in some way? So we collect a lot of data to understand what a player is doing within the game, and you can use that in lots of different ways. So the first one would be trying to refine the experience to make sure that the user's not getting stuck. So maybe on a tutorial or when you release a new feature and for some reason people are not engaging with it. So you can kind of see that data. Then what we might also kind of segment users into groups, into buckets, and that could be for any number of things where you might look at the player's skill or ability, and try to make sure that you're matchmaking them against someone with a similar ability. Games are only fun if you're both winning and losing. Actually winning all the time becomes quite boring quite quickly, just as much as losing all the time does. And then we go right down to kind of a personalised level where, if you're playing a game, I don't there's no point in the game servicing content around a melee unit, around swords and equipment for that. You know, the user wants something that they're interested in, so we use that data as well to surface the right things to the user at the right time. And that's all driven by the ability to process and analyze huge amount of data about cloud computing, the latest data storage techniques. So there's a lot of things that we're really trying to push forward in the background.
Actually, just on that personalisation point, because it's such an interesting one, I think we're in at the moment an age where everyone wants everything to be personalised. People want to have experiences that are, if not unique to them, they want it to be framed uniquely. People want recognition from the brands they're engaging with or the games they're playing, that I am my own special player and person, I have my own needs and wants and desires. And video games are so well placed for this. It is an industry that is at, I think, the forefront of being able to personalise. We have so much more data than lots of other people. We know what people are doing second by second when they're playing. And I think we have a huge opportunity to make more of that than we currently are, and more so as AI, which enables faster turnaround and personalisation and analysis comes to the forefront. I think that's quite an exciting place for gaming to be ahead.
There's a bit of example about that, a piece of tech or a group of young people. Oh, man.
Younger than you.
Yeah, a lot younger than me. Some of the kids I just taught that age. Anyway, they developed some tech because part of the issue in the gamers in the audience, and certainly this is a question we get a lot from schools and colleges, well, what sort of level of machine should I buy or should we invest in? And if I only spend £1,000 for somebody else to spend £2,500, they're going to have a competitive advantage to us, to our team. We had seen that we've been shown some tech that's been developed that is able to compare, using the analysis stuff that we've been talking about, compare the level of kit that different players are playing, and therefore put you in lobbies with people who are using the same level of kit as you are, therefore levelling up the playing field, which is amazing using the analysis software and the data that is surrounding this game, because that, in the same way as in golf you have a handicap system or what have you, the fact if you're using a 4090 Ti versus somebody on a 1080 or something like that, there is going to be a difference, isn't there? I'm not sounding as I actually know what I'm talking about. Anyway, so that level of tech, that development of this technology, that I can see so many more places than us.
Sure, I mean, it sounds obvious, doesn't it, that that should exist, and it's great to hear that it is existing. I'm going to end on a kind of strategic point, and come to you first on, you mentioned the industrial strategy earlier, the government's flagship strategy for supporting a lot of sectors with a lot of resource attention, that sort of thing. Is there one thing you're particularly excited about when it comes to the future of gaming and that strategy?
Yeah, we've got some government people here. I think from a Tencent point of view, we're exceptionally excited about the future of gaming, not just gaming overall. It's a global industry, but the future of the UK's ability to participate in the global gaming market. As a company, over less than a decade, Tencent has invested over $2 billion in the UK on over 20 projects within the UK. And that's part of the belief that the UK as a market has got a lot to contribute in terms of creativity, generating new IP, being involved in technology. But a key part that allows some of these projects to come to fruition is the support we get from governments, for instance, in the form of video game tax relief. I take care of a couple of key amounts of some of the creative projects that I work on. One of my studios is actually 𝗨𝗶𝗶, based here in Sheffield. I've recently had the pleasure of looking at some of their P&Ls and going, oh, that looks risky, that doesn't. And when you can look at the government support you get from BDTR, it takes some of the risk out of the equation. So, it's not just that I'm excited about it. Putting our money where our mouth is, Tencent is exceptionally excited about where not just these technologies we've spoken about can go, but where the UK industry itself can go. And what we'd like to to see is like ongoing support and commitment to help the industry grow from an educational point of view, the students we've got here in the audience, from a social and community point of view. We've talked about esports and accessibility in gaming, but then also from the business side to make sure that we've got a solid foundation that we can continue to grow and invest from becomes exceptionally important to us. So I think you can see here an intersection of social, technology, business and government coming together really great. And you spoke earlier in your report about the spillover effect. So, you know, 1.3 billion pounds, I think you mentioned, 250 million tax revenue. You know, it's not just that gaming is leading the way in these technologies, but these are having big effects elsewhere. So, we're proud of our contribution, we're proud of all our studios and the creativity they're doing. We're loving the technology that we've got access to implement it. We see a very, very strong, positive future for gaming. But we definitely need that ongoing support and a solid foundation, that we can build from an education point of view, from future innovators coming into the field, and then from government support.
Sure, that makes a lot of sense. And quite an optimistic note to kind of wrap up on. I'm going to actually come to Tom to give the esports version of that answer and the strategy, and give you all 20 seconds or however long Tom's answer is to think of any questions you might want to ask our panel, because I have saved some time for questions some people want to meet too. So, Tom.
I think it's an acknowledgement of the opportunities that video gaming esports give. That if we look past it as just being video gaming and look at the skills that young people are developing through participation or through studying in this area, the opportunities that then career pathways that are opened up, not just in the video game industry and the esports industry, which is, well, certainly the video game industry is huge, but then the wider links to digital, creative, and STEM industries. So for employers within the space, or the tech firms that we're talking about who are involved, engaged in the space, they need to be looking at the gamers and the esports students who are studying, who are working in this now, because they're the future employees, future jobs, the people, future employees of these tech companies, the people developing this next generation of tech are going to come from gamers, are going to come from the people who are engaging in this now. So it's, for me, it's a recognition, it's a request for recognition, both from the government and from the tech firms themselves, that actually our future employees, we need these skills from people. Where are we going to get those skills? Where are we finding those people? Actually, they match to the gamers. They match the gamers and esports players now. And so therefore we support that.
Amazing. Thanks, Tom. So I'm going to pass this mic around. If anybody has any questions, I'm keen people already. Then we'll have maybe 10 minutes or so for questions.
Thank you. My name is 𝗍𝗲𝗀𝗵𝗶. I was the founding director